My journey officially began as we left the dock at Seward, Alaska. This was my home for the next 4 days, sailing to a remote glacier. One of my goals on this expedition was to film the endangered sea otter. Their population has been decreasing here, so I wasn't sure if I would see one, but these seas are rich with wildlife, and it wasn't long until I found a rarity. Rhinoceros auklets, usually alone and far offshore. Very unexpected to see a flock of 13. We passed by islands with nesting puffins. The long yellow plumes around the eye signify that they are ready to mate. As we sailed past the islands, a bittersweet moment. While it was nice to see an otter, they were distant and quickly gone. We pulled into a nearby cove to dock. My first night ever at sea. I spent it watching these pigeon guillemots in full breeding plumage with that striking white patch. They're closely related to puffins. With the midnight sun, I only slept for a couple of hours before there was light again. And that morning, I had the most emotional wildlife encounter I've ever had. I'm composing the music for this emotional wildlife sighting, and I want to emphasize the intimacy and the adventure of filming this animal. So I think what I'll do is I'll build the music up to a climax and match that with the highest action part of the scene. I think I'm finally done, and I say that because when I close my eyes and listen, it just takes me back to that morning. This cove, with an epic rocky coast, sees an incredible pair of visitors. Sea otters. Their fur keeps them warm and alive. They spend hours grooming and rolling around so their fur can hold pockets of air, insulating them from the cold water. When humans realized how precious this fur is, we almost hunted them to extinction. But they're resilient. Seeing them aggressively playing meant a lot to me, because it's a good indicator of health. But there's more. Most sea otters have the distinct contrast between their light face and dark body, but older otters lose dark pigmentation over time. He is likely over 15 years old. Not easy for an otter to reach. They're the smallest mammal in these waters. Each year they must survive a harsh winter and predation from bears, wolves, and sharks. We continue to sail towards the glacier, with porpoises by our side. This water is dense with humpback whales. Their calls can travel for thousands of miles under the ocean's surface. Using sonar, we detected their sound at 15 hertz, too low for humans to hear. These highly intelligent whales gather for group hunting strategies. The gulls take advantage of any leftover scraps. After 2 long days of sailing, the glacier was visible in the distance. And icebergs accumulate around the glacier, Seals gather in numbers, but the accumulation of ice is up to the luck of nature. As we approached, bird life became visible. A family of cormorants and stunningly patterned harlequin ducks. I felt the cold glacial wind, and then I got my first view of this massive glacier. There's so many epic noises at this glacier, like the ice cracking, the wind, and the wildlife that just echoes against this massive wall of ice. And I don't want to get in the way of that at all, so I've got to figure out how to leave room in the music for the sounds of nature. I just made this orchestral piece that blends in really nicely with the sounds from this glacier. 400 feet tall and a mile wide of solid ice. Glacier. Hundreds of seals gathered to take refuge on the surrounding sea ice. Some nursing a pup, some fishing, most of them just resting. But no matter what, they are all happy that this ice is here today. And they're not the only ones. A convenient spot for gulls to feed. In coastal cities, they may be considered pests, but gulls are incredibly beautiful in their natural habitat. And a familiar face hopes to get some much-needed rest. She balances her pup on her chest as she looks for available ice. Male sea otters don't help with child rearing at all, so she's on her own. Sadly, the good spots are taken. Glacier is relatively stable, but pieces of ice can break off in a process called calving. I couldn't imagine I'd see a bigger ice fall than this, but then a rare, breathtaking moment. By late afternoon, the sea ice has mainly broken up, and the few remaining large pieces are valuable real estate. But even they're not stable for much longer. The rest of this ice will disappear overnight, and the process will start over. Tomorrow will look completely different. At the end of our sailing journey, we stopped by the Chiswell Islands. They seem to appear vertically out of the sea. The waters here are rough. But there is so much wildlife. Millions of birds, gulls, urs, puffins, and many more nesting species, and also a special colony. Stellar sea lions. They may look similar to seals from far, but they are very different. They're loud, aggressive, and can get massive. After 4 days at sea and this amazing last stop, I was ready to step back on land. In the middle of Alaska, there's large areas of undisturbed habitat for wildlife to roam. And getting to these remote areas is an adventure in itself. In remote Alaska, I spent time in 3 habitats and noticed how the appearance of a bird is influenced by their respective surroundings. These 3 species are closely related, but live in different habitats. The spruce grouse in the forest, the white-tailed ptarmigan in the Alpine, and the willow ptarmigan in the open tundra. Each of them depends on blending in with their surroundings to survive. My adventures on land started in the forest. For most of the year, the landscape is covered in snow and ice. But in the summer, the textures of the forest are revealed, including this female spruce grouse. Her decoration is ornamental, but also helps her blend in with the textures of the boreal forest. I was only able to get close because she trusts her camouflage. I also found a family of moose in this forest. I had a very hard time trekking through this prickly terrain, but this moose moves through effortlessly. And on my way out of the forest, I saw an animal that I'd never seen before. Porcupines are elusive and mainly nocturnal. Their quills are an effective defense mechanism. They can even pierce through the skin of a bear. After a long winter of eating tree bark, they savor the wild flowers. After leaving the forest, I hiked into the Alpine habitat to see the Harding ice field. The Harding ice field feeds into Alaskan Glacier where I had just sailed. It's over 700 square miles of ice, and one of the last remaining ice fields in the United States. Not many animals can survive in this frozen landscape, but this is the preferred habitat for the white-tailed ptarmigan. They blend in with the alpine rocks and have uniquely feathered feet, allowing them to walk through the snow. This ptarmigan will turn white in the winter and will be almost invisible. I spent the last few days of my trip exploring the open tundra, looking for grizzly bears. Instead of going to a reliable location where grizzlies are habituated to humans, I decided to look for wild bears on my own. Navigating through this unmarked area looking for wildlife is such an adventure. There's so much to see. Willow ptarmigans roam the area, with summer plumage ready to blend in with the melting snow and bushes. Ground squirrels burrow into the open fields of the tundra. This young squirrel is shedding their winter fur to make way for a summer coat. And interestingly, a seabird breeds here before returning over 200 miles to the ocean. Jaegers are known to steal fish from other birds. 2 of them tried to gang up on a golden eagle, but were unsuccessful. After 3 days of looking for grizzlies, the only bear I saw was this distant black bear. The other wildlife was captivating, but I was running out of time. My last day in Alaska, and as I was leaving, I can't believe this happened. This is the last wildlife sighting in the documentary, and as I watched this animal roam around, I just kept thinking about how powerful it is. So I'm going to try to emphasize that in the music. This feels like the perfect ending to my trip, and I just can't wait to share my last day of Alaska with you. The open tundra is a unique habitat. The ground constantly freezes and thaws, stunting the growth of plants. You can see far and wide, but with over 6 million acres to roam here, seeing an apex predator is like finding a needle in a haystack. But I lucked upon a mama grizzly bear with her 2 cubs. The bears were a distant speck to my naked eye, but in a sprint, they could reach me in about 10 seconds. I wouldn't risk getting any closer. The young are tired from the glaring sun, but their mother must teach them how to forage. These cubs will be on their own in about a year. Working together is imperative at this age. Grizzly bears and black bears can both have brown coloration, but grizzlies are distinguishable by their large shoulder hump. They develop this muscle, digging for edible roots. In grizzly bear habitat, it's important to research how to safely navigate for the protection of yourself and the bears. And with the end of this sighting came the end of my Alaskan adventure. I headed home, dreaming of coming back one day. Wow, what a trip. I was so happy to just see wildlife roaming around their natural habitat, and I really hope that I did them justice. A couple of quick thanks. Thank you to Swarovski Optic for letting me use the new NL Pure 10x52s to locate elusive wildlife. And thank you to Resurrection Based Sailing for truly a once-in-a-lifetime voyage. And the last thing I wanted to say is, I'm a new filmmaker doing all the shooting, editing, and music on my own, and I really just want to share this passion that I have. But I need your help. Please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. There is so much more to come. In 1 month, I'm going on the biggest trip of my life. A dream opportunity. I'm really nervous, and I will definitely be sharing a lot from that trip. And that's it for now. Goodbye. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.